So the other day in Twitch chat, we were having a really interesting conversation about privilege, and the concept of white privilege came up. There was one chatter who said, well, I'm white and I don't have privilege. I grew up in a really poor town. My parents had no money. I've had to work very hard for my resources, but I don't have privilege. Nobody helped me. No one paid for my college. And I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what privilege actually means. I think sometimes people look at privilege, especially when white people are called out for having privilege, that they immediately focus on the things that they don't have access to. The conversation always is, well, how can you say that I have privilege because I don't have anything? I've come from nothing. But the misunderstanding comes from the idea that privilege is just about what you have access to and the resources that are granted to you. Privilege, very much so, is also about the things that you do not have to deal with on a daily basis. As a straight white person, you don't have to think about going into certain spaces and think about those in a dangerous setting. Most Caucasian straight people can walk into a nightclub without worrying if they're going to be targeted by the people that are there because of their sexual orientation or because of the way that they look, maybe their skin tone, what language they're using. They don't have to worry about going into a grocery store and talking on the phone with a family member in their native tongue, which might be English, and having people look at them or tell them to go back to their country. They don't have to worry about the type of discrimination that comes from the privilege of being white. And I think when we look at privilege in the context of, it's not just about the things that you have access to, but the things you don't have to worry about on a day-to-day basis. I think that concept of privilege opens up a lot of people's minds and makes them think more about specifically their whiteness or their straightness. That when a queer person walks into certain spaces, they have to be thinking about, is this a safe place? Will I be targeted? Is someone going to say something to me? And as a straight person, that's not always the mindset. Walking into a space, is somebody going to do something to me? That's what we as queer people are thinking about all the time. That feeling never goes away. And it's the same thing with people of color. They're always thinking about, will I be safe in this space? And Caucasian people don't have to think about these things. There's never been a space that they haven't been safe in or they haven't been protected in. So we need to think about privilege in that context. That way of looking at privilege is oftentimes better understood. Thank you for listening.